Welcome to Gotta Stamp with Suzanne. Today I'm going to show you how I like to put my labels for my clear mount stamps onto my unmounted stamps. When you get your set, you're going to have your sheet of stamps, and then you're going to have your sheet of labels that will correspond. The first thing I always want to do is get my sheet of labels lined up with my stamp set so it's a mirror image. For example, this is our hat label that's going to correspond with the hat stamp, and if I were to flip this over and lay it on top, the labels would be lined up exactly the way they're going to end up going on the stamps. And with a set like this, it's not as important to do that. It's just a good habit because a lot of times you'll have sets that have one or more stamps that are circular and it's hard to tell the direction the stamp is going. By doing it this way, you'll be sure to get your label lined up the correct way on your stamp. Take off all the paper backings from the stamps, but leave the paper backing on the rest of the sheet so you have a cookie cutter view of each of the stamp shapes. And then peel off one of your stamp labels, figure out which one it's going to match to, and each of your stamp labels is going to have a paper backing that's split down the middle that you want to take just half of it off. If I have a really complicated image with a lot of curlicues or angles, I usually start with the side that has the most curlicues and leave the paper on that side, because that's the side that's not going to stick. And I use that to line it up inside my stamp shape, right where I have my little cookie cutter view, and then lay down the other part. This way I am not having to try to line up a whole sticky thing, and if I get it wrong and I have to take it off, then this vinyl sticker tends to stretch and it gets a little more complicated. And now my label is on there. I'm going to take a smaller one here. I know that that is going to go right this direction. I'm going to pull off half of my label. I'm going to line up the paper half with the edges right inside there of my shape. Press down so the sticky side sticks to the back of my stamp, and pull off the other half of the label. That one gets done. Now, one of the things I really love about my method is that by using the actual shape of the stamp to help me lay it there, but having that extra paper backing to do it so it doesn't stick before I'm ready for it to stick, I can actually get these labels on my stamp sets pretty darn quickly, as you can see. And so that one's going to lay right there. So I'm going to look. I think I'm going to use this edge to leave the paper on because it has more definition, and I want to make sure I get that part lined up. So I'll use that part, just line it up with my edges again, lay it down there. And look, I'm almost done that quickly. I only have one left. Now, after I get them all labeled, I will take this other paper backing off, and I always save that piece of rubber that is surrounding all of my stamps. The reason I do that is that by keeping that in here in my stamp case, when I take my stamps out, I always know how many stamps are going right back in without having to look at the label, and I also know exactly what the shape is. So if I lay a stamp down somewhere and it's not in my case, I know what the shape is I am looking for. It's just a really handy way to keep them. Plus, it kind of keeps them from falling all over the place when they are in the case. Now, they're still attached to my sheet of rubber, so I have to kind of pop them out. Last thing I'm going to show you, for those who haven't used the clear mounts, is to use the clear mount, you get your acrylic block, you lay your stamp right on it, and then you want to really press down with your thumbs. You want to get a good seal. If you've ever used those suction cup hooks on a wall, it's the same idea, but you have to press hard to get the suction on there. If you turn it over, a lot of times you can see if you've got a lot of little air pockets, that means it's not really stuck well. So that's another double check you can do. Now that it's on there, I can ink it and stamp it, and I am ready to go. My last little thing that I sometimes do is we've got a little label on the inside here. This takes a little bit of tweaking, but if you want to cut it out and get the layers off so you just have the label, I stick it on the inside. That's just me because I like to label everything twice, but for you, you may do as much as I've done and call it done. That's it for Got a Stamp with Suzanne today. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.